If your job at a healthcare facility includes disinfecting against viruses, you know prevention is the best medicine. And maintaining healthy spaces starts with a healthy cleaning routine. Grainger's world-class supply chain helps ensure you have the quality products you need when you need them. From disinfectants and cleaning supplies to personal protective equipment, so you can help deliver a clean bill of health. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Hey, shh. Calm down. The show is about to start. Reese on the radio. Turn it up. Turn it up low. Turn it up loud.
It's like a dream come true.
Turn on your radio. Reese is on the radio.
Yo, let's get it.
Due to the nature of this program, discretion does not exist. It's Reese on the radio. Right now on WTIC News Talk 1080.
Let's get right into it. Today, folks, I think I'm going to be themed. I've only got one theme today, and I think it's going to be immigration. It's not that other news isn't going to be covered here. We'll talk about that hot mic from the Easton representative. We'll talk about the hot mic issue. We'll talk about Chris Murphy. We'll finally applaud myself with my confirmation. I almost came this close, ladies and gentlemen. I almost came this close to keeping Tim from Hamden from talking about politics anywhere for 6 months, because as I told you, I was going to present the evidence, and I have it today, evidence that these protests are bought and paid for, but I'm going to applaud myself anyway. Stupidest thing that I've read today, still trying to understand it. Someone's going to have to explain it to me. Why is Coach Auriemma getting involved in the controversy that is college campus protests? Why is he getting involved? I don't know. I understand it was a little quip, but I have to address it. We've got no friends here. I'm just telling you that. I'm not trying to be a bad guy. I've got no friends here. Okay? My job is to take care of those who are good stewards. But if you do something foul, I got to mention it. Okay? So, Coach, at about 4:30, somebody's going to have to explain something to me. Why he chimed in, I don't know what the reason was for, but we'll get into it. But I got to talk about immigration. Do you know there was a huge story that happened right in Hartford, and one place so far that I can see covered it? And weirdly enough, it was the Hartford Courant, which many of you tell me no one reads. But it was a big story. We'll get into it. There was another story related to the same thing with immigration. Turns out no one's covering it. No one's talking about it. And it has to do with illegal immigration, and it has to do with trafficking, labor trafficking. It's both of them, crazy stories. But we'll get into it. We also have a guest. We're going to have the Hartford Police Union President, James Rutkowski, on today at 4 o'clock. I've got to ask him some questions about illegal immigration as well. Hopefully he'll chime in on that. We'll also talk about the search for a new police chief in Hartford. All of that we'll get into. But I figured we need some theme music.
Being an illegal alien. Now it's no fun being an illegal alien.
Yeah. Don't get too caught up on that. I can only play less than 30 seconds of that. Oh, they're catchy. By the way, somebody's going to have to explain to me, did Genesis go full top 40 after Phil Collins became the lead singer? Like, I can't really remember how many really top 40 songs when Peter Gabriel was in Genesis. Maybe there was one or two. I can't remember them offhand, but maybe somebody can fill me in on that. 860-522-WTIC. That was Genesis, for those of you who didn't know, or you couldn't make that association. Illegal Alien. Pretty good music video, too. A Mexican national residing in Hartford has been sentenced to over 4 years in prison. 4. What was the charges? Well, Maria del Carmen Sanchez Portrero, also known as Maria Carmela Sanchez, who is 71, a citizen of Mexico last residing in Hartford, was sentenced on Friday by U.S. District Judge Kari Dooley in Bridgeport to just over 4 years in prison, according to the U.S. Attorney's Office for the District of Connecticut. Justice Department officials say that she was involved in a scheme to smuggle aliens into the U.S., harbor them at the Hartford area residences, force them to work, and threaten to harm them in various ways if they failed to pay exorbitant fees, interest, and other living expenses. According to court documents, the statement made in court beginning in September of 2022, the FBI and Hartford police officers interviewed several Mexican nationals who disclosed that they were smuggled in from Mexico into the U.S. and transported to Hartford. The investigation revealed that victims typically arranged with Sanchez and others in Connecticut and Mexico to cross the border into the United States in exchange for a fee between $15,000 and $20,000. Each needed to pay that once they were in the United States. In most cases, the victims were required to turn over a property deed as collateral before leaving Mexico. They were smuggled across the border and transported into Hartford area residences, including Sanchez's residence on Madison Street in Hartford, often at substantial risk of bodily injury and harm. After the victims arrived in Connecticut, they were told they would have to pay approximately $30,000 with interest, and that they would have to pay Sanchez for rent, food, gas, and utilities. Sanchez and her co-conspirators created false documents for the victims, including permanent residence cards and Social Security cards. This was printed in one media outlet, the Hartford Courant. Nowhere else did it show up. Unless somebody else shows it to me, this was all I could find. This story, which was published on, what was the date of this? Did I get rid of the date? It had to have been 2 days ago. I don't even think it was 3 days ago. But it made no headlines, no national headlines. A 71-year-old woman. Now, she had cohorts. For some odd reason, those individuals are missing from the article. Because no one here believes that a 71-year-old Mexican woman was holding these individuals in a chokehold, with them scared to death, forced to pay some $50,000 in exorbitant fees, forced to work in all the businesses that this young lady or old lady was actually arranging for them. So she would get them work in Hartford and then take their money. That's what was going on here. And it was going on for years. Nowhere to be found. And I'm not understanding why no one is outraged in the state of Connecticut. No one's being asked about it. No one's covering it. Where you at, NBC? Where you at, FSB, TNH? Where are you? This is a huge story for several reasons. One, the fact that they got caught, and crazy enough, 4 years for modern-day slavery. This woman is alleged to have plenty of people held captive in her home, threatening them with bodily harm. This isn't kidnapping. How many years is Sullivan facing for kidnapping her stepson, Seth? Anybody want to know? Anybody even ask? Nobody's even talking about that. How many years is she facing? 20? 30? Is there anybody else in the family who's actually being charged as well? Have there been any co-conspirators? I'm not hearing anything. Investigators have identified 19 victims involved in the scheme. Multiple victims were also, wait for it, minors. Minors. And at least 2 were smuggled into the U.S. unaccompanied by a relative or legal guardian. This is according to the U.S. Justice Department. Sanchez has been detained since her arrest on March 1st of 2023. On October 24th of 2024, she pled guilty to conspiracy to encourage and induce, bring in, transport, and harbor aliens. The court ordered Sanchez to pay restitution of $574,000. Sanchez faces immigration proceedings when she completes her prison term, which means she'll never have to pay and she'll just be sent back to Mexico. All, of course, to probably enter again and run the same scheme. Now, again, hear me out. For the left, you're probably going to think I'm reaching here. But hold on to your silly little hats. Every police officer in Connecticut was held to account by the actions of Derek Chauvin, according to the governor of Connecticut, Ned Lamont. He came out on a stump speech saying that we need to change policing and said that he was going to change policing in the state because of the actions of a police officer that isn't in his jurisdiction halfway across the country. Many people around the entire country said they needed to defund the police writ large because of the actions of Derek Chauvin and the death of George Floyd. Everything had to be changed because of. Well, libs, what about this? What's it going to take? Are we going to have to find 100 people in the basement of a warehouse, shaking, living in slave-like quarters, maybe chained up to a couple of radiators, or radiators, however you pronounce them here? Is that what it's going to take before everyone decides that we have to do some sort of reform on illegal immigration? Folks, this is not a one-off. This isn't a one-off. Human smuggling suspect to be transferred to Connecticut jail for dialysis treatments. Well, that's an interesting story, considering there was none about his trafficking. A federal court judge ordered Friday that the Brazilian national accused of smuggling hundreds of people illegally into the United States is to be transferred to a jail in Connecticut where he can receive frequently needed dialysis treatments. Flavio Alexandre Alves, 41, whose arrest was announced on Wednesday, has a medical condition that requires him to receive dialysis treatments 3 days a week. His lawyer, Stephen Buzang, said in U.S. District Court on Friday. Alves has been living in Worcester. Judge David H. Hennessy entered a voluntary order of detention for Alvarez on his behalf, for him to be transferred out of the detention facility in Rhode Island. What did Alves do? Well, he's facing charges of conspiracy to bring aliens and transport aliens within the United States in violation of the law between May of 2021 and August of 2022, according to a news release from the Office of the U.S. Attorney General, Leah B. Foley of Massachusetts. Alves is alleged to have coordinated with others in Brazil and Mexico to transport Brazilian nationals across the U.S.-Mexico border for financial gain, laundering the proceeds to allegedly purchasing more than 100 airline tickets to Boston, Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, and Harrisonburg, Pennsylvania. The Brazilians, who had encountered U.S. Customs and Border Protection personnel near the border, also allegedly sent hundreds of thousands of dollars to help people illegally enter the United States. Alves had previously been convicted of human smuggling offenses in California in 2004 and was subsequently deported to Brazil in 2005. He allegedly re-entered the United States and has been living in the country without immigration status, according to the release. What do you think they're doing? What do you think they're doing? And everyone says, these people just want to live in peace. They're not committing any crimes. They're just like you and me. They're our friends and neighbors trying to get on with life. I ask you, nutmeggers, any one of you being held at gunpoint to pay $50,000 to stay in the country? Are you anything like these people who are being extorted? By their own folks, I might add. This guy is a Brazilian bringing in Brazilian nationals into the country and extorting them, holding their legal papers up and saying, you better get to working, you better get to cutting me a check, you better give me all of your money, or I'm going to tell immigration. And these politicians sit around and say, no, there's nothing going on. It's all above board. I've got more. I'm not done. I'm nowhere near done. Donald says human smuggling is common among different nationalities. I hope that's not an excuse, Donald. I hope that you're not telling me that that's acceptable, that because other countries do it, then what's the big deal? Libya still has a slave trade. They actually have a slave trade. Like they put them on the auction block and sell Africans in Libya. With all due respect, Donald, you okay with that? I mean, it's been happening there for generations. Isn't that okay? I mean, it's their custom. Huh? How about the Uyghurs in China who are sterilized? Huh? So they don't repopulate and put in labor camps in China. But they've been doing that forever in China. It's China. That's their way. To be honest, I don't give a damn if it's their way. They don't come to our country to do their thing. We don't do slavery here anymore, right? I don't give a damn if they're bringing their culture here. They ain't bringing that. There's a whole lot more when I return. So stick around. We'll get to that. And, of course, as I mentioned, we've got police union president James Rutkowski coming in as well. We'll talk to him about a whole bunch of stuff, plus this topic when we get back. All right, so stick around. It's Reese on the radio on NewsTalk 1080 WTIC.
Reese on the radio, making sense of the news. Yeah, even when it makes no sense at all. Now on WTIC, News Talk 1080.
We'll get to the phones in a second. Stand by. I know it ain't. The The District of Massachusetts U.S. Attorney's Office said a man by the name of DeLima, I don't think they're giving his full name here, DeLima tried to orchestrate an elaborate and manipulative human smuggling operation. For a steep price, Mr. DeLima allegedly made arrangements for victims to travel from Brazil to the United States, then extorted the vulnerable victims and their families for far more money, even threatening harm, according to U.S. Attorney Rachel Rollins. Court documents showed that DeLima ran a business that illegally smuggled individuals from Brazil in exchange for payments of thousands of dollars. Officials said that DeLima would make travel arrangements for clients to illegally enter the country by plane or bus. He would arrange accommodations for clients during their travel. Quote, what he is accused of doing is disgraceful, you think? In attempting to smuggle human beings into the United States for his own financial profit, and then allegedly extorting them for more money under the fear of harm. He has demonstrated a deliberate disregard for the safety of their lives and our country's laws, and our laws that are in place to ensure the public safety. Now, again, here are U.S. attorneys talking about public safety. Now, they allege in the first story I told you with the 71-year-old woman, these victims did not, I repeat, did not contact local police. Remember the nonsense they keep telling us? Well, we want to make sure that these people who are in our communities will call the police as a crime is committed against them and they don't have any fear of being deported. No, these people contacted federal authorities to get them out of their situation, not the local police. Now, many of them, victims, I might add, were still deported. And I know the first thing that liberals are going to say, well, you see, Reese, they were being used and abused and they got in touch with authorities and they ended up getting deported anyway. Yes, Queen, yes. Yes, Queen, yes. As the LGBT community likes to say. I got no problem with that. They never belonged here. They transported slaves. What are they going to do now? Everything that they came here for was under false pretenses. Smugglers got them jobs. Smugglers ensured that their money went straight to the smugglers. Now you just want them to stay? I'm going to say something controversial here, and I know some people will agree with me and they'll keep it quiet. But hear me out. And I read this directly from a former slave, Booker T. Washington. He said, when the Emancipation Proclamation came about, and I'm paraphrasing here, sure, there were some slaves who were exuberant about being free, but not many. Many slaves didn't know what to do with themselves with their newfound freedom. They knew they were going to have to fend for themselves, feed themselves, provide for themselves, something they were not accustomed to do. Many of them fought back against it, begged their masters to keep them because of the fear of the unknown. No offense, but that sounds like the Democrat Party to me. It never ends. History repeats itself. I'm sorry, but I digress. Let me get to the phones. 860-522-WTIC. Let's go to Mike in Plainville. How we doing, Mike? Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. Before I get to you, Mike, that's not your fault. I need to get another window that blocks me here anytime I go to go. There we go. Let's get.
Fighting these illegals.
What's that?
They call the federal authorities.
Yeah.
Looking for help.
Can you believe that?
Yeah, I mean, come on. Yeah, I do believe it because you see it every day and so do I. Stupidity.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, this is like someone impaired driving to the police station and asking them if they can use the men's room as they stumble in.
I don't. I'll tell you, Mike. The part that again that baffles me about this story was in one publication that I looked, because I knew the story. I knew that there was a trial going on with four. There were four individuals in this sting operation that had all of these illegals, and I knew that the case was happening in Bridgeport. But I knew they were Hartford residents. There was some story that suggested they were near New Haven, but I knew they were in Hartford. So it was really difficult to find the individuals. And so one story had, and I had to look, it's crazy. I had to look it up on Twitter, and they had the woman's name wrong, but they had her age right. And then I looked up this 71-year-old woman out of Mexico, and then I found the story. The Hartford Courant is the only place that had the story. But again, we're talking about a racketeering, a RICO, sting, that involved the federal authorities in one of the most controversial situations or subjects that we are dealing with as a country, with the fact that we have the mainstream media battling the White House about an MS-13 active gang member being brought back to the United States. And this story is happening in Hartford, where a 71-year-old woman with three others are convicted of trafficking and extorting Mexicans, and nobody's talking about it.
The lines have become blurred. They started getting blurry when Kennedy was shot. Ever since then, it's been an ebb tide.
I think, yeah.
Cover-ups.
I think your cover-ups and
corruption and lies. Now this illegal. These coyotes, there's corporate entities in this country that are supporting them,
yes,
paying them to get these people into the country. I mean, the general public has absolutely no idea how serious this problem is. It goes all the way to the top of corporations. You're never going to end it. Anybody thinking things are going to happen overnight and get better, forget it. Move on. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, it's a good point. It's again,
not going to happen. There's too much.
It's coordination.
It's too big of a mountain.
I don't think. Look, I think that tide is turning, because I look at the overall country, and they are, even though the number is only 65%, and I know that's not a lot in the grand scheme of things, but that's far better than we were doing on the subject 10 years ago. The immigration thing was underwater. It was in the high 40s, I say mid 40s in 2015. Now it's in the high 65. So it's a majority now that people who want illegals removed from the country.
Have there been any big raids down in your direction, your way?
No, there haven't been. Again, not to the level that I've seen in places like Chicago and in New York. They are going major, like, gung-ho in Denver.
Why not?
Because they're going after
Connecticut?
Because they're I'll tell you here. Well, I think that's coming. I think that's coming. But let me tell you why it's not in Connecticut yet. Connecticut is a smaller market, and this is what I always say is the weird rub. What's going to happen is simple. William Tong is going to bite off more than he can chew, as is Christopher Murphy. Keep bringing attention to yourself by going on the national stage. And Trump will come here. Homan will come to Connecticut. And he will make a spectacle of it. Because a lot of people are going to say, damn, why are you picking on little old Connecticut? After a while, because some things can backfire as sort of like political retribution because it's such a small town. Yeah. But you know what? If you play with fire, you should get burned. And I think that William Tong is asking, if not begging, Tom Homan to come to the state and get rid of him. And I'm going to talk to Rutkowski about that as well, as far as what his police department says about about stories like this and other illegals that have this going on, whether or not it's an open secret or worse.
Me, along with at least 1 million residents in the state, have one question. How come these people that have been in government for so long haven't been investigated or even arrested or spoken to or publicized in a negative way, the kind of people that we are, and we know who they are and what they are because we talk about them every day.
Yeah, no, I know. You're right. There has to be a public repudiation of the people who are vying for this, and people more or less want to deal with it politically. In other words, they want to wait till midterm elections and general elections to win.
They have done as much damage to this country as any terrorist organization has. You
Agreed.
can take all the people that died at 9/11. I'm not forgetting about them, but all the damage that these people caused financially during COVID.
Indeed.
I mean, this is it's out of control.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you, buddy. I totally agree. I think it's that bad. It's drip, 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 drip. And everyone should understand that this is, look, these are still human lives. I know that there are people who don't care about the human toll here, the human lives that are being affected by this, because on both sides, they are useful in a lot of ways. I look at it as, I don't care whether or not they're migrants. I don't care whether or not they're refugees. I don't care if they're the dumbest group of people in the world who are just worker bees. Nonetheless, they are human beings, and they're children. They're human beings and they're children. Even if they don't value themselves as anything more than hired help, I still value them as human beings. And the fact that their own people can drag them into the country and utilize them for their own financial gain shows you just how disgusting this whole thing is. The people who abuse them and the politicians who fight for it to go on and never come around when stories like this come up. And don't forget, also the news media that covers it up and won't cover it at all. Because even they're complicit in dehumanizing these people. They're always screaming and hollering about how these people shouldn't be dehumanized by not talking about this smuggling of these people and the way in which they're used. Nothing could be more dehumanizing, not even recognizing them as a people that you should report on. That's how disgusting this is. We'll take a break. More calls and more of these stories when we return. It's Reese on the radio on NewsTalk 1080 WTIC.
It's Reese on the radio.
Ask your doctor if common sense is right for you.
On NewsTalk 1080 WTIC.
I'm all out of sorts because I can't find my sober chain. And I don't know where it is. It's driving me nuts. Anyway, we got plenty of stuff to get into. In the next hour, we're going to talk to Hartford Police Union President James Rutkowski, kind of a regular on the show. We'll bring him back. We'll talk about what the update is on the search for a police chief of the Hartford Police Department. We'll talk about that and a couple of other things. See if we get the interim chief in here as well to talk to him. A whole bunch of stuff going on. And I'll also get into some other stories today. We've got that hot mic situation that happened, what was it, yesterday or the day before? I think it was yesterday. That's making the rounds. And it shows you exactly how crazy all of this tax and spend of Connecticut has gotten. There was a report that said that Governor Lamont has a 65%. Is it 62? Maybe it's 62%. I might be giving it too much. Has a 62% approval rating in Connecticut? Really? Why would he even be contemplating running again? That kind of approval rating, you just do. You're a shoo-in. But I think I think that's nonsense. I don't believe in that one bit. Oh, also, I got to make sure. I totally forgot to mention this, folks. Please do not forget.
It's peanut butter jelly time, peanut butter jelly time, peanut butter jelly, peanut butter jelly, peanut butter jelly with a baseball bat, peanut butter jelly, peanut butter jelly, peanut butter jelly with a baseball bat.
Make sure you make it down to between rounds, the Bagel Bakery and Sandwich Cafe, and pick up a Reese's peanut butter and jelly sandwich so that you can participate in some charitable work by purchasing these sandwiches. You will give $1 to the Friendly Hands Food Bank, our good friends, and my favorite charity here in Hartford. I'm sorry, in Connecticut, I should say, not just Hartford. In all of Connecticut, Karen Thomas is the director of Friendly Hands Food Bank, and I love what Between Rounds is doing for them, and, of course, those who are in need. So it's great, and they're going to see how successful this is so they can do it year-round, month to month. And I hope that we get to be a partner with them as we are for this entire month. So you got the rest of the month to go down there and go pick up a Reese's Peanut Butter and Jelly Sandwich so you can contribute $1 to the Friendly Hands Food Bank. If you'd like to just donate to the Friendly Hands Food Bank, just look them up at friendlyhandsfoodbank.org. As well, if you've got food or anything for that matter you'd like to give to Karen Thomas and Friendly Hands Food Bank, you could do that as well. Nonetheless, still go and visit our folks at Between Rounds, our good folks here. I would like to make them, if I could, and I'm going to parlay this as much as I can, I'm going to make them like the official sponsor of the Reese on the Radio program. But, I'm going to have to parlay that in some sort of way. I'm just putting it out there, guys. Just putting it out there. Just putting it out there. It's not like when I mention something, it doesn't come to fruition. They say you got to dream it. What do you have to speak it into existence? What's the thing that they say, Roland?
Speak it, bro.
Speak it into existence, right? Is that, something like that. I don't really believe, I don't know how to do that. So I just say, I'm going to have it happen because I say so. Anyway, let's see if we can speak it into existence, some good traffic and some good weather with Jason Catarinas and Mark Christopher in the BPS Traffic Center. Mark, how we doing out there on the roads?
Hey, Reese, thank you very much. Good afternoon to you. Good afternoon, everyone.
Peanut butter jelly, peanut butter jelly, peanut butter jelly.
And don't say we didn't warn you on NewsTalk 1080 WTIC.
I got to remember to cut off my clips when I go to break. Anyway, we're back. It's Reese on the Radio. Top of the hour. We've got plenty of news and plenty of views for you. Coming up on the program, we're going to be talking to the Hartford Police, president of the Hartford Police Union, James Rutkowski, is going to be joining us. We'll talk about what's going on the search to get a new chief of police, or chief of police in Hartford, how that process is going, if we've made any inroads, how the morale is going. We'll get into some of that. I'll ask him some other questions, of course, about our topic of the day with regards immigration. Also at 4:30, the stupidest thing I read today that involves Coach Gino Auriemma. And you heard the top of the hour with this thing going on with Hartford, and a couple of other schools that, like Columbia, are doing. I don't understand why anybody's getting involved in this and then ending up on the wrong side. So we'll talk about that as well, because a lot of that has to deal with some immigration issues and people who are in the country under visas who are quite disrespectful to the country. I was reading today before the show what you're allowed to do in other countries that would be contrary to what you're allowed to do in the United States. And Mexico was one of the countries I went to, and Saudi Arabia was one. And I found all of these crazy things. And the objective was for me to look up, it's like, name some things you could do in this country that you can't do in this country that you can do in the United States. And the list in some countries are, that makes sense. Some things are beyond the pale. They are. They're just beyond the pale. And if you knew that, you would just go, no wonder they come here in this country and they do that nonsense, because they can. Some people, and I'll just say this real quick, some people look at the freedoms of the United States not as liberation, but as an affront and as something to abuse. That's all I'm saying. A lot of these college campuses are taking part of that. We'll talk about that in a little bit as well. All right? Anyway, before we get to James Rutkowski, let's get some weather and traffic. Jason Catarina's got your weather, and Mark Christopher is in the BPS Traffic Center. Hey, bud.
All right, Reese, thank you very much. Well, if you're 91 southbound, look for delays from exit 34 down to 32 A and B. Northbound side of 91 moving well, Cromwell up into Windsor. 84 eastbound, some slow traffic, 48 Capitol Avenue into the tunnel. Westbound 84, that looks real good, burning out into Farmington. 291, 384, okay, to the river. 2 eastbound moving well, Glastonbury into Marlboro. 9 northbound, a little slow at the Aragoni Bridge in Middletown. Waterbury downtown looks real good, 84 and 8. And 95 South New Haven, a little slow, 46 down to 44 in New Haven. Traffic and weather together on the 8's WTIC News Talk 1080.
WTIC weather.
Well, heads up, we got some showers out around portions of the region as we head through. It is very mild for us, and as we continue through the rest of the evening here, we are going to continue to deal with a bit of showers as spots, mostly early during the evening hours, then partly cloudy and windy overnight, the low dropping down to 39. Mostly cloudy, windy, chilly feeling day for us on Wednesday with the high only 48. Then still breezy in the evening, partly cloudy, a cold night for us down to 37. Thursday, sunny, breezy, milder, the high up to 58. That warming trend will continue right into the weekend. Mostly cloudy, breezy in the afternoon Friday. A shower in spots, so maybe want to take an umbrella, but the high up to 63. Saturday, even with a couple of showers, cloudy, breezy, and much warmer, the high jumping up to 77. Partly sunny, breezy, and cooler on Sunday with the high of 60. Right now, 64 in Waterbury, 68 in Danbury, 62 in New Haven, and 66 in Hartford. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina in the WTIC Weather Center.
Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons, the last encores. August 2nd at Mohegan Sun Arena. Get tickets Friday, 10 a.m. at Ticketmaster.com.
At Columbia Dental, we love to make kids smile. Our expert pediatric dentists specialize in children's dental care, making every visit fun and comfortable. Open 7 days a week. Call 860-645-0111 or visit columbiadental.com.
It's the Peter L. Brown Company's 65th anniversary. For a limited time, purchase high-performance double-pane windows from the Peter L. Brown Company and get an upgrade to super-efficient triple-pane glass at no additional charge. For a free estimate, please visit peterlbrown.com.
I'm Rick Julius, a partner at Cordell & Cordell. For over 3 decades, Cordell & Cordell has been on the front lines of family law. Divorce is more than just a legal process. It's a life-changing event that can impact your future, finances, and your relationship with your children. You've worked hard to build a life that you're proud of, and you deserve a legal partner who will work just as hard to protect it.
Schedule an appointment with one of Cordell & Cordell's Hartford area attorneys. Phyllis McCutcheon, licensed in Connecticut. Online at CordellCordell.com.
The following heartwarming yet informative to you by Trust and Will.
Son, your grandpa and I used to work on this car together, and when I'm gone, I want you to have it.
Wow. Thanks, Dad.
Doesn't count. What you need is a will. Luckily, Trust and Will makes it easy. Designed by attorneys, but customized by you, you can easily create a state-specific, legally valid document that actually counts. Now, let's let the engine do the talking, am I right? Start your will at trustandwill.com. Use offer code COUNT for 20% off and make it count. Trust and Will is an online estate planning service. For details, see trustandwill.com.
Seems everything costs more these days. Gas, groceries, and when's the last time you checked your wireless bill? When it comes to big wireless, if you're staying, you may be overpaying. Switch to Consumer Cellular to get the same fast nationwide coverage without the big wireless bill. Plans start at just $20 a month, and now for a limited time, new customers can get their second month free. Call 1 at a store near you or consumercellular.com and start saving today. Plans include $5 credit for auto pay and e-billing. Taxes, fees, and other third-party charges will apply. See website for additional details.
President of the Chris Murphy Fan Club, Reese on the radio on News Talk 1080 WTIC.
All right, we're about to have James Rutkowski, the president of the Hartford Police Union, on. I just got this great message that I'm not going to say who wrote it because they're a friend. I'm not trying to put them out there like that. But he brings up a good point, and I actually had a situation that's very similar to what he's trying to warn me of. But I'll get into that in a little bit. I don't want to take away from our guest who's on the line. Again, Hartford Union President James Rutkowski is on the line. How are we doing, sir?
Outstanding, Reese. How are you doing today?
I am great. Great to have you back. So at last we spoke, I believe personally that we made news because you were quite concerned, as were, I guess we could say that many of your union members, if not police overall in Hartford, were concerned that part of the reason you weren't able to get a police chief was because the mayor was trying to get a DEI hire in its shoes instead of getting someone who is competent and capable of reining in the morale or getting the morale up at the police department. But we did get someone as an interim, and from what you and I spoke about, I guess, last week, I guess morale has improved. Where are we today?
We're in a much, much better spot. Every leadership opportunity comes with challenges. Everybody has a different way of getting there. Sometimes those blow up in your face, and sometimes you learn lessons of how to navigate that better. And our interim chief Ravella right now has stabilized our department and put us in a direction is much better than we were. Much, much better. And again, I'd like to thank the mayor. I think the governor had a hand in this too, making sure that the Capital City Police Department leveled off itself. And, we're going in the right direction right now.
What are we, or do we have any candidates? Because I've heard no real mention of it, but are we back at the process of seeing candidates? Have any candidates been made public? Has anything been made public about people that we're vetting, because I know there was a lack of vetting in the last time, but are we seeing anything that can be said or that you can reveal publicly on candidates? Are there 2? Are there 4? Is there 1?
I don't know if there's any candidates right now. I know they've opened up the process. I think right now everybody's just taking a breath and gathering themselves before they proceed forward into the endeavor of making sure that whoever we select going forward is the right fit for the city, the community, and the department.
Who's making some of the decisions as far as like recommendations? And I remember talking to you last, one of the key things you and I talked about, and I think why I had so many hangups as you did, was we weren't going within the department to pull them up. In other words, because I think that's a boost to morale as well. Grabbing somebody in the ranks in the Hartford Police Department and moving them up the ranks, therefore giving other police officers that vision. We always talk about them being able to see themselves in that position. If we pulled somebody up from the rank, other officers would aspire to do such.
I believe so. I believe we have a couple of really good candidates in the department. I honestly hope that they apply because I think they have the qualifications and leadership skills that we need going forward to stabilize, again, the department and make sure that we're connected to the community and fit the agenda of what the city needs to go forward.
How long is the interim chief going to stay in place? Do we know that?
I know per our city charter, he's going to be here 6 months.
Okay.
I think what would be a prudent step going forward is maybe select our chief and then have him there for maybe, and again, it depends on Chief Rabella's mindset of what he wants to accomplish and where he has to be and what he wants to do. Maybe train, mentor, and guide, the new chief for a couple months, put him in the position of who are the players, in the community, within City Hall, within the department, and give them a really good overview. So they're not behind, because any job that you walk into, especially one like this, you're going to sit down there and you're going to have to do an evaluation period. If that evaluation period can be shortened and we can get the new chief up to speed a little faster so the community can have better service, I think that would be a very prudent plan.
Even although you say the morale has picked up since Ravella's joined, what has the city of Hartford? How is that? Has there been any impact on the city of Hartford as well? Has it become more dangerous? Is crime still low? Does the community feel like they're being well protected in that regard? Like, what's the feedback from the community? Do they feel like something is actually structurally happening inside the police department?
I believe that they do.
Okay.
And I think a good indication of that is, look at today's Hartford Current. I mean, Justin's a good writer, and we have the title of the homicide, the 2 perpetrators being arrested. But I look at that and go, is there a better way to write that for the community?
Right.
Instead of, weapons and 14-year-olds, how about, swift justice or lightning strikes in incredible time, and the Hartford Police Department keeps the community safe?
Yeah.
Because we've had a lot of those incidents in the last month where we've really done outstanding work. And look at, we solved the homicide within hours.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah. It's a good point.
By Officer Diaz, how, and that's what I'm saying. Sometimes you look at where we are in the morale level. Just change that title a little bit. And it's not for us, right? I don't need us walking around patting each other on the back, but to let the community know, right off the rip on the front page of the Current, within hours, the community was safer.
Yeah, it's
what a great message.
Yeah, it is. What's where are you at now as the union pres and with the whole thing? So it seems like you're satisfied at least with having Rebel there, that the process is going on. You said you thanked the mayor. You were a little at odds with him a couple of months ago. But it seems like you guys are back on good standing, or you guys are working it out. Where are you together in all of this?
No, we're on good standing. We had conversations about including the union and the department within the selection process. I mean, ultimately, it's going to come down to a collaborative effort. But I appreciate the phone call. I appreciate the conversations that I've had in the direction we're going. I mean, again, everybody makes missteps. I myself make missteps. Nothing's perfect. But I appreciate open dialogue, just with you and I. Like, we have open, honest dialogue. That's rare.
Yeah, I mean, I get that. I think that, I think that the mayor, and unfortunately, he's made this very clear, that he has he's had, I should say, an agenda-based mission as mayor. I remember him completely combative with the community overall in Hartford when they decided that they wanted to somewhat police themselves by having the this sort of citizen patrol in and around Hartford, which by the way, I haven't heard much from since last summer. We haven't heard much from that. By the way, any updates on that? Are they no longer doing that, or is that still continuing?
I believe that has gone way of the dodo, good sir.
Ooh, okay. All right. So that didn't last very long. Okay. Sadly. Okay. But I mean, there was a lot of pushback from the mayor on that. Instead of there being sort of a cohesive message about letting the community know we understand what you're going through, because the reason why they were acting is because they felt that, one, the mayor wasn't reacting, and they thought the police department couldn't possibly protect them, they didn't really have an argument with the police department. Their argument was they believed that they could better serve their community than relying on police to show up after the fact. But that's another story. But I thought that the way in which the mayor handled that was calling them dumb and, vigilantes, was instead of doing that publicly, instead of having a conversation with the community, I thought was misguided in my view. So I'm glad that you are having a conversation with him that's more proactive than reactive. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I don't know if he had private conversations with those parties, but looking at it from a police perspective, walking around with people in the community that are armed is just dangerous. I mean, no one's walking around with, a jacket that says good guy, bad guy. I mean, if we're getting dispatched to a gun battle and there are people shooting at each other, how in God's good green earth are we to determine who's who? That, there's better ways within the community to protect each other than walk around with a firearm and put yourself at risk.
I understand that, but you know what? You and I can have a longer conversation about this because, to be honest with you, I think there's a remedy to that, but that's another story. That's another story. And like I said, I can get it. Trust me, because there are some things about that community, that community sort of watchdog group or whatever they were called. That particular group, there are ways in which they can work with police. And I hear you on the gun battle thing. If police are arriving, they just see a bunch of people shooting each other. Who knows who the good guys and the bad guys are? There's ways to remedy that, but that's another story. Let's get to this, because before you go, I wanted to ask about, by the way, was there anything that I missed that you wanted to address that I didn't get to? Because I do have a question about today's theme.
No, listen, I greatly appreciate the opportunity, because so often we have our conversations, it's in a negative context.
Correct.
And I wanted to show my appreciation for you for giving me a forum to having that conversation and then to be able to come back on and again and just talk to you and say thank you and appreciate everything that you did for us in that time period.
Oh, no, forget about it. That's easy. Look, I'm a strong supporter. You guys, look, I wasn't here a couple of weeks. In the Hartford Police Department, we had a guy who was a 61-year-old guy who was sleeping in the staircase. That was a part of a cover story on the Hartford Current. And I knew no one in the Hartford Police Department. They called the station and said, tell Reese we're looking for the guy. And the police department went out and found the guy and put him in a facility that day. So that, again, no relationship with the Hartford Police Department. And they reached out to me to say, hey, tell Reese we're on it, because they were listening to the show. And that, to me, indebted to them indefinitely, just because they helped out a 61-year-old man who needed back surgery sleeping on a staircase. So that's, this is a kind of a partnership because you guys showed me that kind of effort, and that lets me know who the police department is. So I want to help in any way that I can. And that's just the way that I am. But let me ask you about this on the theme of today. Did you hear this story about the Hartford 71-year-old woman who was extorting all of these illegals in the city? And she just okay, I got to ask this question. Not that you would know personally, but I'm really starting to think that this thing stinks to high heaven and everybody knows, and it's an open secret. People have to know that this is going on in Hartford. And if they do, why is nothing being done?
Yeah, so it comes down to, again, you look at sex trafficking, you look at juvenile sex trafficking, you look at all the illegal immigrants coming over the border, and they want to, look at when Biden was there and said, the border, we can't shut it down, and Trump comes in and shuts it down. But part of the thing that bothered me the most when they were up there and pontificating of the open border, look how many children came over that border. Do you think that child sex trade wasn't part of that?
Yeah.
And a lack of attention to it. We have that in Hartford. People don't want to admit it because if you look at that, who wants to say that that's part of your community? That's what you are. Of course it's here. It's in every city. It's how do you address it accordingly? And then, of course, you don't want that on the front page of the paper. How are you supposed to sell Hartford as a safe city? Or, we're friendly in a sanctuary city, and you're wait a minute, you have a sanctuary city and you're protecting people that are breaking the law?
Yeah, to a large degree.
That's an awful that's an awful message.
The part about this, Rutkowski, the part that drove me crazy was, according to this story that was going on with these people, these victims were spending 2 years having to deal with this, taking their wages had their wages taken from them. They had to clean the house. They were living on dirty floors. Children were involved. The crazy part about this was, here's the thing that should blow your mind. We get told by politicians over and over again that we want to make our sanctuary city available for these illegals to contact the police if they are being abused or disabused. Or abused or sex trafficked or whatever. These people called the federal government, not the local. They didn't call the police department. They called the federal government. That's insane. I can't expect you to have an answer for that. But doesn't this sort of fly in the face of... I'm sorry.
I don't have an answer for it, but I'll look at the typical mindset of a victim. It's very difficult to get someone to step forward and make that complaint. Look at children that are abused. You can go through so many different levels of that victimhood and people having the courage to step up and say something years and years. And you can say, we're a sanctuary city, but you're in a country, you don't speak the language, you don't really know how to navigate it. You were probably told by your coyote handlers that if you say anything, you're going to get deported.
Right.
And imagine where they came from. So if you're living in those conditions, and I'm not saying that you find that acceptable as a person doing that, but where did they come from where they said, something, these conditions are still better than from where I was?
Yeah.
That's awful.
Do you think the police, even if they do recognize it, do you think they kind of look the other way because of politics, or do they not want to be ahead of their skis and find out that it's not happening, so they just respond to crime rather than react to it, if you get my meaning?
Well, that's a great question we should be going and asking our legislators.
Yeah.
Because right now, they're trying to push through I think it's House Bill 7212.
Yes.
Where they're trying to circumvent the supremacy clause and go, hey, and you're using your immigration, not status, or they're trying to use words to circumvent the supremacy clause so they can pass a law in Connecticut to say, hey, the police can't ask those questions. You can't inquire about that.
Yeah.
So what are we really trying to, are we really trying to protect our community from bad actors?
Nope.
Are we really trying to get the people that are here that want to be citizens the services they need by saying, hey, look at what the police are in essential. We don't really solve problems.
I got to go to a break, James. But thank you, as always, sir, for joining in. I'm glad things are working out. Please inform us immediately. You have my telephone number. Let us know how the process is going and if anything changes, okay?
Absolutely. Take care.
You got it, buddy. All right, let's get to the weather and traffic with Jason Catarinas and Mark Christopher in the BPS Traffic Center. Hey, man.
Stay locked in. Reese on the radio is
on WTIC News Talk 1080.
All right, we're going to be doing the stupidest thing I read today, but we're waiting until the next break to do it. So someone who is listening to the show sent me a message. And I don't think that it wasn't done with malice, but they just sent me a message. If you're in the chat room, you probably read it. But they were sending me a message. They were concerned about the subject matter in the stupidest thing I read today. And it's about Gino Auriemma. He had a comment about the student visas that are being revoked. And in the person's comments, they were telling me to be careful because Coach Auriemma is considered a god in Connecticut. Okay, no offense. Not that this person was trying to be offensive. But that's part of the problem. Coach Auriemma, I don't think that he is, and I'm not going to cast aspersions on him about that. Only going to cast aspersions on his comments. But I don't think he thinks he's a god. I don't think he is beyond reproach. I hope he doesn't. But the worst thing anyone could ever tell me is that because of the coach's status, he is the only person allowed free speech in this space. That's bull. That is bogus. And no way am I going to tolerate that from anybody. If someone has a problem with how I address the stupidest thing I read today, they're going to have to address it after I say it. I don't have to be careful. I am not reckless. I'm not a reckless hater. I say things as they are. Everybody knows it. But yes, is it a possibility some people might be offended? Yes. I've got 2 words for them. So what? So what? All I'm going to say is that if you want to chime in on that space, absolutely. But if you say it to reporters while you're being interviewed and it doesn't wash, it has to be addressed. It's not a criticism. It's that it's misguided, and that's what I'm going to address. So stick around for that. But the last thing that you could tell me, again, trust me, if there's anybody who's dealt with censorship to the level of people who have tried to attack me, my livelihood, my life, and my job, that's me. I am never going to be told what I can and cannot talk about. Ever. With all due respect. And I love you for being concerned about me. But I got this. Now let's get another check of the weather and traffic with Jason Catarina and Mark Christopher in the BPS Traffic Center.
the self-proclaimed love child of Rush Limbaugh.
They're running a strange program, y'all.
Reese on the radio on News Talk 1080 WTIC.
Put on your seatbelts.
Yes, you do. Stupid as can be. This could very well be the stupidest person on the face of the earth.
Stupidest thing I read today comes out of the Hartford Current. Now, after the UCONN Women's Championship, of course, Coach Gino Auriemma spoke with reporters. And, of course, the reporters wanted to get a comment from someone who, of course, works at UCONN about several students who have had their visas revoked. Even though, according to many reports, no one has been able to disclose the race or the individuals who had them revoked, or even why. There is no reporting on that. No one has disclosed it. But yet reporters, always ahead of their skis, wanted reaction from people, and some people were willing to give it. Again, not informed with every detail. Let me read the Hartford Current story. As the Trump administration continues to revoke visas and deport international students from universities across the country, the college sports world is bracing for the potential that some athletes may be affected. Not that they are, they may be. UCONN said Monday that the federal government had revoked the visas of 13 members of its university community, including 12 students and one in a postgraduate professional program. UConn women's basketball head coach Gino Auriemma spoke with reporters on the issues after the Huskies national championship parade on Sunday. Auriemma has recruited plenty of international players over the years and had one on the rosters this past season. Jana Alfei of Egypt. UConn will add 2 more international players next season, Bianca Quinones of Ecuador and Gandhi Malau Mamel of Ireland. Quote, Gino said, yeah, you can't control it. And once again, it's a strange world we live in, right? You do everything right, and then all of a sudden you're told that doesn't work anymore. I don't get it. Thank God I became a citizen in 1994, huh? I'd be the first coach deported. Which begs the question, which obviously the reporters didn't think to ask. Coach, have you made anti-Semitic comments while you were working at UConn? Have you staged protests that supported Hamas on October 7th? Have you supported protests that said you wanted to get rid of Western civilization? I don't think so. So where does the quote, you do everything right, and this happen? What are you talking about? No one is being targeted for quote-unquote doing everything right. No one even knows why these people have had them revoked. Unless you know something the rest of us don't, which I would love to get some answers to, considering you work for the school. To make a blanket statement like that, as if to suggest, because they are foreign students, that they're having their visas revoked means that the only evildoers here are those who are revoking them, is a little beyond the pale, with all due respect. So again, I don't understand why any reporter in that space, I know they got the ink they wanted, which again was a popular coach, a god as it was referred, standing up for international students, upholding the narrative of the media, that these people are being wrongfully targeted just because they're foreigners. But see, the worst part is that this is the reason why I tell people, to, please, with all due respect, you don't have to comment. You don't have to. Hey, I don't know all the details about this, guys. Please don't get me involved. I can end up supporting somebody that may be a really, really bad intentioned person. Okay? Somebody's going to throw that back on me. With all due respect, I may not like the president of the United States, but you know what? I've got players on this team who might support him. I don't want to seem unbiased. I want to be a fair and equitable coach. That's all. I want to come here and play basketball and win championship after championship after championship. That's what they pay me to do. And people love me for that. Why get into the fold where people are going to be like, Just don't. It's not necessary. Look, Michael Jordan said it best. Right? When he wouldn't endorse the candidate going against Jesse Helms. He said, hey, Republicans buy sneakers too. I'm a sneaker salesman. With all due respect, I'm not getting involved in politics. Just not. And for what? What am I obligated to get into politics for? What's your reasoning? Because I'm a political guy? I'm the slam dunk guy. I'm the Air Jordan guy. I'm the sneaker guy. Until sneakers start being sold in political groups, I got nothing for you. This isn't a shut up and dribble thing, just so we understand each other. This is not a shut up and dribble thing. This is just an understanding of the facts, which clearly That's not happening. It's not an understanding of the facts. Even the people in the news media don't know why their visas were revoked. They don't. And they get people caught up in this, and this is why it's irresponsible. You got the people in front of you. You don't want to not say anything. You don't want to say no comment because then they think you're a chump. Yeah, you know what? I don't want to get involved in that. Why? Why not? Isn't it important? Some of your players are from other countries, and you're compelled to. No, you're not. No, you're not. Respect the game. Respect the people who play it. My students are great students. My students come in and they work hard, and they go in there and they get their class work done. They get great grades, and they come in here and they perform every year. And every year we win a championship. That's all I care about. And that's good enough for everybody. But come on. No one's trying to deport anyone. No one's trying to deport anyone. And to even put that into the ether, for what? That's all I'm asking. For what? For what? Hey, yeah, I want to kick around the president too. And it's that incessant need to be down. That may have worked during the Obama era. Not anymore. Not anymore. Now people are held accountable. They're held accountable for what they say. And it's not about cancel culture. It's about asking. Because then when it's revealed why these people visas were revoked, someone's going to have to ask the question, hey, this guy was promoting some pretty bad hombres. What say you now? Then you're going to have to walk the whole thing back. And then what happens then? Then the people that you were trying to get in good with will then call you a chump. See how that works? You end up like Gretchen Whitmer. That's how that works. So, look, let's just be classy. When we don't know, act like we don't know. That's all. And he's a great coach. Bar none. Without a doubt. But I think that's just the thing. Politics don't have to be downstream of everything. That's all I'm saying. 860-522-WTIC. Let's go to Joe in New Hampshire. Hey, Joe.
Wowee. I could tell you a lot about Gino. Let me put it to you this way. I may have mentioned this to you in the past. Why would UConn allow him and his program to play the important tournament games down at the Mohegan Sun Arena, which is far smaller than the Gamble Arena on campus, where students can walk to the games? They don't need transportation, as opposed to going down the Mohegan Sun, which has been the case now for a couple of decades. You want to take a guess?
Is there a gambling component involved, or is there something else?
Well, unfortunately, the students that go down there, from what I've heard, I used to be in Connecticut. I knew everybody. There's another scandal involving a Ford dealership 20 years ago that you can look up that involved the athletic department. I'm not going to go any further than that, but the athletic director at UConn, whose first name was Lou, very popular, he pretty much fled his job and went out to the Midwest and got, another athletic director job. And he ended up getting into a bigger scandal out there, similar circumstances. But you had the people, the coaches and the people on, especially football and basketball, giving out courtside seats to these dealership owners, and they got free.
I see what you're saying.
SUVs.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, it was like quid pro quo.
I know that. That's part of that reason. Now, look, again, I'm not advocating for that kind of quid pro quo. I know that it happens. I'm not taking any sides on it. I do believe. Look, there's so many weird ways I can express this, but let me put it this way. I kind of understand why a lot of people in those programs do it, but I don't want to litigate it any further than that. But nonetheless, do you think I was too harsh on Gino by saying that, look, nobody knows why these people are being revoked? Why chime in?
I haven't gotten to the big blockbuster point.
Go
that
for
was
it.
a side thing about the athletic guy. I mean, there's so many things I can get into. I don't normally get much time on your show. But
because I got a lot of calls. Go ahead.
Yeah, the big point the big point is, for a couple of decades now, instead of having 10,000 plus, mostly students and gamble, they have to take these shuttles down to the casino. And a lot of them have developed gambling problems because they're down there. You got the slot machines.
Sure.
I mean, that's a side issue in itself, a moral aspect. But Gino has how many restaurants in the Mohegan down there?
Oh, I didn't. He does? That's new to me. I haven't been to Mohegan in years.
2 restaurants, but it's a quid pro quo. As long as they can schedule those UConn games down there and fill up their arena, which is much smaller than Gamble, he's got those 2 lucrative restaurants raking in the dough. He's got 33 restaurants in Connecticut right now. He keeps expanding. Don't you know that?
Well, that much I know. How many seats does the arena in Mohegan versus the UConn Stadium?
I should have looked it up before I,
That's okay. I'll look. I'll look it up. I'll look it up.
It's a Connecticut Sun plays there, so I'm guessing it might be 5,000 or 6,000.
Okay,
you're going to fill them both up. You're going to fill them both up no matter what the situation. This is like the Big East tournaments and key games. And another thing, here's another story. I'm a big investor, and
I'm sorry. So what happened? I have no idea what happened. Anyway, sorry about that. My apologies. Tim is in Hamden. Hello, Tim.
So these people who just happen to be deported all across the 68 here in Connecticut, just
deported?
happen to be people who, come on, man,
had their visas revoked.
Let's talk. Okay, so you think they can stand? They can be here next year? It's in the process. Okay. You can split all the hairs you want. It's obviously it's a fact that they're going to clamp down on these protesters and everybody else, call them every name in the book and everything. These guys up there, good grief. It's an obvious, factor that's going there. Just like the one, they took the one from Colombia and moved him down to Louisiana.
He's actually going to be leaving. A judge has ruled that he is to be deported. And why did a judge? Why did a judge?
I have no doubt whatsoever.
Why did the judge rule on that, Tim? Why did the judge rule on him being deported?
Basically, what the Trump administration is trying to do is crack down.
Well, the judge
on
is the person who made the ruling. What did the judge? Harvard. What did the judge rule?
So basically, the Trump. I don't want to get into your side little deals and stuff. The Trump administration is not a friend of academia. They think they're all commies. They're blah blah blah. They're going to go after Harvard for millions, if billions of dollars. It's the same thing. We don't want any, protesters at Yale. We don't want them at UConn and that sort of stuff. So suddenly, magically, these people, if you showed up and you were photographed on there, or made some sort of comment about the Middle East, suddenly you're going to be.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Welcome to the new world. It's
if you made,
really.
Hold on, I want to use the characterization you just gave. If you made some
you know what they are. Get real, man. Don't be pulling this, hokey dokey thing.
I'm not.
Stuff.
Hold on, Tim.
Just,
Tim, stop for a second.
You that naive?
Tim, you said.
Why do you think that they're being targeted?
Thank you. You said that they made some sort of comment about the Middle East.
I said if.
Oh, if they did.
Reese, you got to listen to what I actually said and stuff. So if they said something, if they attended a protest, if whatever along those lines, suddenly, and that's going to, quell a lot of other people, on campus, a lot of U.S. citizens on there. It's like, tamper down. We don't like this, and meanwhile, we're going to, have this wild ass schemes. We're going to build a,
Okay. I'll address this on the other side of the break, because I've got a whole bunch of other stuff to get into. Anyway, let's get some more weather and some more traffic with Jason Catarina and Mark Christopher in the BPS Traffic Center. Hey,
Reese, the capacity of Mohegan Sun for basketball is 9,323.
Well, that's a lot.
And about 1,000 more at the Gamble. Gamble capacity for basketball is 10,299. So about 1,000 fans more.
Okay, that's considerable, but not as much as I thought it would be. I thought the number would be at least $2,000. But 1,000.
Yeah, it's about 1,000. Yeah.
Okay, that's not too bad.
Yeah.
But look, Mohegan Sun. Look, I'm not going to lie. I believe that the UConn women's is a marquee sport. To me, the way in which they're adored in Connecticut, they might as well be the Connecticut Sun. They're far more popular. They just are. Am I wrong?
Well, they have a long history of winning.
Clearly. Without a doubt. But if you would have compared it to with the Sun versus UConn women's, who do you think?
UConn women way more popular.
Exactly.
No question about it. But the Mohegan Sun's a great organization, and Jen Rosati, one of their early stars when they first, I think she was on the first championship team in, I don't know, was it 95?
Yeah.
She's the general manager down there, and she's revered in the state too. So
there you go.
Yeah, it's a win-win. Here's the thing though, because they sold out the Boston Garden at a game last year, so there's some talk that maybe they may be moving to Boston. Nothing concrete, but there's a little bit of whisper about that, so we'll see what happens there. The only thing I don't know, because the TD Garden, you got the Celtics, the Bruins, and a lot of concerts, so it'd be tough to get dates in there. So we'll see what happens with that.
Reese on the radio is getting ready to drop some knowledge
on WTIC News Talk 1080.
Drop it. Yeah, we'll talk about Stephanie Thomas, the Secretary of State, tomorrow in the opening monologue. I'll break all of that stuff down as well. Plus, I've got phone calls, which we'll get to in a short bit. Don't forget, in this hour, near the end of the show, be the last but not least caller of the day, so that you could win a dozen bagels a month for 6 months, courtesy of Between Rounds, the Bagel Bakery and Sandwich Cafe in South Windsor, Manchester, and Vernon as well. And we're having a good time handing that out. So try to, when the phone lines are clear, we'll get somebody on that. So it could be done. I want to talk about this real quick. This is this story about the Maryland man. And, Tim in the last call, I tried this over and over again with liberals or people on the left, with no concern about what people say in this country or how they behave in this country. And I said it earlier in the last hour that there are a lot of people who come to the United States because of the freedoms that are given to citizens here. And then there are others who want nothing to do with those freedoms other than to exploit them. To come here and do the things that they would never be allowed to do in their own country. I remember listening to that imam in the Dinesh D'Souza documentary. I think it was Trump Card was the one that Dinesh D'Souza did. He was talking to that imam. I played him before. His name escapes me, but I'm sure I have the audio here somewhere. We talked about Ilhan Omar. And he says that Ilhan Omar is in the United States promoting abortion. A woman who in her own country would never be allowed to even utter that word. Where she would never be allowed in her own country of Somalia to suggest aborting a Muslim man's child. But in the United States, goes nuts. And even so much as suggested that the Muslim community looks at Ilhan Omar as doing their bidding, as saying, yes, promote that in America. Get them to be as depraved as they possibly can be. Promote that. That's the way the imam described Ilhan Omar and people of her ilk. That they want that infiltrating. There's this huge story going on in Texas right now about this community that is trying to have Sharia law on American soil. And there are so many people who are scared to death to even approach them in the event that they might appear Islamophobic. Can't have that. That they would allow a religious group to come in and completely change Americans' laws to suit their own needs. That people are so afraid today. I always go back to this, and I know sometimes I can be kind of like beating the same drum over and over again, but I always go back to that 60-minute piece, and I'm going to find it. Somebody out there, somebody in our coveted Reese on the Radio research department, please, if you can find this video, I beg of you, I would be so grateful. There's a video of this Black Ops guy who said that he was the one who was torturing and questioning Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, the so-called architect of 9/11. And he talked about that exchange with him where he says, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed says to him, after he was waterboarded, like I guess 100 times, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed said, your American liberal media will excoriate you. They will denounce you for what you have done to me. And the way he talks about it, it's almost eerie how Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, a guy who was living in a cave before they found him, knew exactly what the American news media was going to do. Take his side. Take his side. And sure enough, they did. And that's the world we're living in now. Tim, not with... I mean, I hate to say it, but that's what this whole thing is about. Celebrating, cheering people, condemning the country you live in. It's like allowing them to come in and burn down your house and you stand outside cheering them on. Yeah, I never liked that house anyway. You bled for this country. You put sweat equity into this country. For foreign nationals to come into the country and to berate it and to talk about the destruction of it and for you to cheer them on and to fight for them to come into the country, to stay in the country. This idea, I'm here just watching this news story, no matter where it goes, even on Fox, referring to him as, quote, Maryland man. He's an El Salvadorian man. He just is. He's not a Maryland man. He was just in Maryland. He's not a Maryland man. He'd have to be a Maryland citizen, an American citizen, in order for him to be a Maryland man. But he's not. He's a dad from El Salvador. But words matter. And this nonsense about, the Trump administration is removing them. The other story, I didn't even realize that. I meant to bring this up as well before I go to the phones. Avelo, the airlines Avelo, that's being now protested at Tweed. Did you know that Avelo is not, their government contract to deport people isn't new? It isn't new at all. They've been deporting illegals for a while. They deported illegals during the Biden administration. They did. They had a federal contract. Does anybody know that? Anyone? I had to find that out today. I was like, really? Is that true? Sure enough, it is. And thank God for the good work by Jim Cameron at the Connecticut Mirror. Nobody had an issue with it then. And everybody loves that airline because of its cheap fares. And now there are people saying, and acting, again, not even bothering to look up the fact that Avelo's done this before. It's laughable to watch these people and what they are willing to protect and then admonish. Remember, here's the crazy part in all of this, right? MAGA folks are Nazis, not patriots. But Khalil Mahmoud is a patriot for wanting to destroy Western civilization. He's a hero. He's a martyr. It's ridiculous. 860-522-WTIC. I've got Adam. He's been on hold for a while. Thank you for holding, Adam.
Oh, no problem at all. Always a great program, and you're such a polite host, and you're respectful to everybody, even those that disagree or agree with you. You know, you're just very polite. But hey, what I called about is the Gino thing. You're 100% right in the way you handle it, and I'll tell you why. Because, listen to this. I was living in East Hartford since 2008, and for a long time, the hardware store on Main Street had a cardboard sign in the window that said Gino is God. And even some of the Christians at Truth Baptist Church, they were disgusted with it because they don't know who God is, you know. Anybody who put that sign up, he's Jesus Christ who died on the cross for us, you know.
You know what? Again, like the person who wrote in the chat room, I get that's how do I put it? It is conventional wisdom and I understand his status here. Look, it's Connecticut. You have I went after Robert Kraft after one of the playoff games, and I referred to him as, it was the AFC Championship game, and he clearly appeared, let's just say, inebriated at best at the post-game interview, and I referred to him as Drinky the drunk guy. Do you know what people did in Boston? They petitioned to get me off the air.
Yeah, they probably did that. But
yeah.
But, I mean, you're not doing it with Sebastian. Sebastian used to berate those brides, and when he got taken off the air, he told not to do it anymore. My father was wondering if a mobster did it, but he said no, it was advertisers. But Sebastian, I wouldn't do this. This is cruel and mean, but he would, when Hartford Courant used to publish brides in the wedding section, he would criticize ones that weren't that attractive.
Oh, yeah, that's not. You don't need to do that. That's punching down in the worst kind of way. Adam, let me move on. I got plenty of people in there. I appreciate you, Adam. Let's go to Tony in Farmington. How are we doing, Tony?
Good. How you doing?
I'm pretty good, sir. Come in a little clearer. I couldn't hear you. A little muffled.
Listen, I'm having trouble getting any kind of an audio signal when I go on WTIC's website or your website. Do you know anything about that? I get no audio whatsoever.
And are you going on a traditional radio to get a signal?
No, I'm going.
Oh, you're going to the website. I'm sorry, I did hear you say that. My bad. I don't know why. I'll ask somebody in I guess in technical, see if I can get IT on it.
Yeah, this has been going on for like 3 or 4 days. I haven't gotten any audio signal, and I've called the business office, left like at least a couple of messages as to what's going on, but I don't hear anything.
Okay, well, I will. I'm sure they're listening, so somebody will look into it and they'll let us know, and I'll let you know as soon as I can.
All right, sounds good.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate you. Let's go to Sean and Meriden real quick. Hey, Sean.
Hey, real quick. I'm a firm believer, and I'm done being nice. If you don't like our country, and so get the hell out. Well, I mean, it's that simple. There's planes that fly everywhere. That's so great. Omar and all you guys, just go. Just feel free to go. Like the girls that flew into space,
yeah,
they should have just left them there.
But you do, Sean, you do have to understand. They're not here saying that they hate the, like, you make very, very good sense. If you don't like it here, you should leave. I say that to everybody. They always say it's like, America's not the greatest country in the world. I'm like, okay, which is, and go there. Of course, first of all, those people have no intent of leaving the country. They love this country because they can call it the worst and never have to account for which is the better country. But the people we're talking about, like Khalil Mahmoud, these guys, the reason why they're here is to dismantle it. It's not just to hate it. It's actually to recruit more and more people to hate it as well, and perhaps get them to change or rearrange, as you know, one former president once put it, fundamentally transform the country by using it, through protests and through extortion, which is exactly what it is, and doing it through the college ranks. Because I always say this, and you know this better than I do, Sean. Here's the thing. Look at the administration or the politicians or even the thought leaders that we have today. They are all the people of the radical 60s that wanted to take over the government in the first place. Now they're in places of prominence, and they're doing the exact left-wing Marxist Alinsky thing that they were all learning in college. And now they're doing the same thing with college students today. They're just regurgitating the same thing.
And you're right. And the last thing I want to say, Bernie Sanders going to that thing,
Coachella,
preaching to them about the system. And dude, you own 3 houses and you're a socialist. You're supposed to be like spread the wealth and everything like that. And you're standing up there. Anyone who was not stoned at that place
should have
understood him. But then he would have not been able to make sense to anybody else because they're all, oh, yeah, like, totally, man. Mom and dad are still paying. Go ahead. Get out of your mom's basement. Then come talk to me.
Exactly the case. You know what? Look, I would give Bernie Sanders more credibility if he lived in a shack, but to own 3 houses and then when asked about it to say, well, I'm a U.S. senator and I have 3 houses and I should. He's the best.
You sound just like him.
I know.
That's scary.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you. That's what he does. You know, we are turning into an oligarchy. I have 3 houses. I don't get it. I just don't get it. I don't get it. Do you understand that, first of all, if they still did MTV Cribs, Bernie Sanders would be balling. You'd think he had like several platinum albums. This guy he's laughably ridiculous. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, too. Did you hear this nonsense? She's going to a fight the oligarchy, speech, flying first class. She didn't even have the audacity to go coach. I love these people, just how ridiculous they are. Anyway, we'll take another break. We'll talk about this hot mic situation. That was rather interesting. We'll talk about that. Maybe we'll preview some of it for tomorrow. The audio is awful. We'll get into that as well. Now let's get another check of our weather and our traffic with Jason Katarina and Mark Christopher in the PPS Traffic Center. I'm going to get it right. I thought I had it. I can't stop saying Katarinas. I don't know why.
Singular? You need singular,
Yeah,
right?
singular. That's
Not
it.
plural.
Singular.
Okay, just remember singular.
We're back. It's Reese on the Radio, News Talk 1080 WTIC. We will get to the last but not least caller of the day. So if you'd like to be that individual, please give us a holler at 860-522-9842. I want to play this because I got a lot of pushback. I said, no, you don't know. You don't know. You don't know. I always know. I always know. I wouldn't say it if I didn't know. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce you to a company. Maybe some of you have heard of it. Maybe some of you haven't. The company is called, wait for it, Crowds On Demand.
Explain to me what a Crowds On Demand company is all about. You provide crowds if I have some cash?
Dan, thanks so much for having me on your show. Yes, Crowds On Demand is the largest protesting company in the country. We've been around for 13 years, and we serve as a vehicle for people to fund and then execute effective, peaceful, law-abiding protests all over the country. And we've been doing so for quite a long time with a lot of success.
Okay, and so people can literally call your company and get a bunch of paid actors, if you will, to stand up there, hold signs, and scream on the street corner, because that's what your company does. Is that it?
Well, I take issue with a couple things. Number one, it's not actors. We're providing activists who are truly engaged with the cause, right?
But are they? I just showed you a video of a guy going, I don't even know why I'm here. They got signs and they got sheets and they said, go say this and talk to cameras and hold signs. They don't even know why they're there.
So that was a young man by the name of Andrew Swart, who has now come out of the trenches and is doing interviews talking about Crowds On Demand, a company he's had around for 13 years. And this is how the whole thing works. It's real simple. It's real simple. So these organizations, indivisible. These organizations, they have millions of dollars. Some of them have billions. It's a conglomerate of them. And what they do is take that money, because remember, they don't want to be caught actually paying for these people. But Andrew Swart, in that interview, and I didn't even play the whole thing, in that interview, even goes on to say that they are the ones who staged the bigger protests. They don't do all of them, but they staged the bigger protests so that it looks and appears that more people are showing up than they actually do. That's his admission. His admission. It's on its mission statement. It's on its website. It's on everything about them. Yes, they are a real company, and they pay for crowds. Hence the name Crowds On Demand. Sure, he thinks that they're politically active, but you shouldn't have to pay for them if they're engaged. So, again, and I try, folks. I try, But I don't need anybody to believe me. Facts are on my side. That's all. Let's get another check of the weather and traffic. These two gentlemen have the facts. They've got, well, at least the weather thing might be iffy. Jason Caterina's got the weather, and Mark Christopher's in the BPS Traffic Center. Hey, man, I did it again. Anyway, we're back. Reese on the radio. NewsTalk 1080 WTIC. Last but not least, caller coming up as well. Tomorrow, we'll get into the hot mic thing because we got to the immigration, we had a guest, and all other stuff. I'm also going to be talking to one, if not two parents that are involved in this Connecticut teacher scandal. There's a Connecticut teacher who has been arrested twice. First arrested for tickling a student at a rabbinical school. He's been arrested again. That story was brought to you by Mark in West Hartford. He and I are coordinated to talk to the parents who are involved in that story. And we'll have that to you, if not later this week, by Monday, because the parents involved cannot speak live on the air because, of course, it's an ongoing case. So what we're going to do is we're going to edit it for time and interview them. We'll interview them. I'll interview them and talk to them. It'll be pre-recorded. So in essence, that's what I'll be doing and talking about that case. If you've heard about it, the New Haven Register actually has a story about it by Jared Wardwell. Has a story about it that came out yesterday. If you want to read the details to that case, but we'll talk to two of the parents who are involved in this case, and I'll talk to you about that, like I said, in the coming week. All right, with that, we need to get up out of here. What was the other thing that I need? No, I don't need to get into that. I guess I could play this real quick because it's important. Paula Reed is the CNN, senior Supreme Court analyst, whatever, for CNN, was talking about the so-called Maryland man. He's an El Salvadorian man. She went on CNN because CNN is not a news organization. I guess they've now fashioned themselves as the fact check of the president of the United States. So on Jake Tapper's show, they brought in Paula Reed to fact check the president on whether or not he has to return this man from El Salvador back to the United States, even though he has no citizenry in the United States. Here's what she said.
President Trump and President Bukele made it clear that Abrego Garcia will not be returned to the United States, despite this U.S. Supreme Court ruling saying that Trump had to facilitate his return. So are they just ignoring a U.S. Supreme Court ruling, or is the fact that the ruling was so mushy, in your words,
yes,
giving him an opening?
It's a technical term I learned in law school, Jake. Mushy, look, they're working within the ambiguity that the Supreme Court justices gave them. They did not order the administration to return him to the United States. They said that they need to facilitate this return. They could have said, we order him returned, but they didn't do that. So you heard the Attorney General. She was being very careful in the Oval Office. When she was asked, would you help? She says, of course we'd provide a plane, right? Thereby facilitating whatever El Salvador is doing. The Supreme Court appeared to defer to the executive branch, given that this is an international matter. And you see, yes, it does look a little bit like a semantic game, but they are playing within the bounds of what the Supreme Court ruled. So no, they are not defying this order.
Yeah, because it would be stupid for the Supreme Court to say, return a non-citizen to a country that is not of his origin. Constitutionally, that makes no sense. Yeah, the guy ain't from Maryland. The guy's from El Salvador. The Supreme Court can't tell you, return an El Salvadorian or Salvadorian to the United States, a country where he has no citizenry. Why that needs to be explained to people, I have no idea, but I guess just people are stupid that way. Let's go to our good friend, White Mike in Florida, who I'm certain, please, if it's going to be about this kid again, I'm trying to get better stories on this guy. What do you got?
So the judge who opened her mouth about this case looks like, from her photo, that she clearly is on a softball team with a group of Melissa Etheridge impersonators. Why we're letting women be judges is beyond me. I don't know who the genius was that thought that women who are devoid of reason and calm are allowed to make legal decisions is beyond me.
Goodness gracious.
I blame Wyoming for giving these people the right to vote in the first place. The Muslims have it absolutely right on them.
No, they
And
don't.
secondly,
Knock it off. No,
they
they don't.
Walk behind and keep your mouth shut. And secondly, the Department of the DOJ attorney who refused to argue the case here is a lifetime DOJ attorney, and his name is Erez Ruveni.
Oh, is that yes? That's the prosecutor who's pretty much dropping the ball on the whole case. He's probably going to be the guy that gets this kid, if not acquitted, but charged for something far less than. I mean, I don't know if this constitutes as premeditated murder, but I almost feel like that counselor is almost playing this incompetence role because he doesn't want to be the prosecutor who ends up railroading this kid, this black kid, and he doesn't want to have that on his.
No, different case. I'm talking about the Maryland.
Oh, the Maryland case. I'm sorry.
Yeah, the Department of Justice attorney who refused to argue the state's case. And
right. He said that he was mistakenly, in the brief, he said he was mistakenly taken to El Salvador.
Well, his name is something odd. It's Erez Ruveni.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, what the hell kind of is that? I've never heard that. So did a quick Google search. Yeah, that name only occurs in Israel.
Oh, that's weird. Okay, so, I get what you're saying.
So now we have a clearly rainbow warrior judge and a member of, I don't know, who probably has loyalties to another country, basically deciding this case, and they're both retarded because we have no right or power to tell a sovereign nation to return one of its citizens to us where he's not a citizen in the first place.
Yeah,
so
again,
how are these people getting power? None of these people should be anywhere near power.
And again,
is this guy a dual citizen? This Ruveni?
No.
Is he a dual citizen? Why is? Of course he is. Of course he is.
Oh no! Oh, I thought you were talking about the other guy. Okay, yeah. Citizen. Well, here's what you're absolutely
why
right.
Are people who aren't loyal to the country having control in our judicial system?
You're absolutely right. And the person who needs to rein this in is clearly John Roberts. He should be reining these ridiculous these appellate division courts and these district courts. He should be reining them in, and he should. But he is one of these guys. He's so feckless. And again, now it gives a complete different light to George W. Bush forever announcing his candidacy, his appointment, I should say. John Roberts is quick, so ridiculous. Go ahead.
Which newly appointed Supreme Court justice has been the greatest turncoat and the biggest disappointment?
Amy Coney Barrett. Yeah.
Which is why you shouldn't let women be judges.
Well, again, I am going to say that, and I don't know. Sandra Day O'Connor? Really?
Anyone who's had an argument with a woman knows they're not logical, reasoned creatures. No,
now you're not going to listen. You are not going to destroy the inroads that I'm making with women in talk radio. You're not going to do that.
Well, I don't care.
I know you don't. You're reckless. This is the reason why he's single, ladies. He's quite appealing in that area. I got to go. I got to throw some people on here. God bless you, man. He's the worst. Let's go real quick. Frank is in Woodbridge. How you doing, buddy?
Good. If you're going to live it, we were told this 60 years ago. If you're going to live in America and you're not American citizens, only bad things can happen.
Yeah.
Look at all these people. 40,000 people, the last I heard, ICE got arrested. 10,000 have been in this country for years, are working, never commit a crime, and they got caught up in the net. Now they're out of here.
Look, like I said, I don't understand.
You got to be an American citizen. You got to have that piece of paper. It's priceless.
It is
My family
exactly.
gave up our citizenship.
It is priceless. You're 100% right in that it's priceless. But again, I think that people are seeing that little opening in the armor, and they're seeing more and more kids who are vulnerable and susceptible to these crazy leftist, ideologies. and they go right in for the kill. And these kids who don't know any better, who want to be down, I want to be cool. Oh, we're going to be on TV. It's just that's kind of the place that they're in right now, and it's a damn mess. But
I just don't understand why they won't give up their citizenship. What could it be? Pride? What pride?
No, because they have an agenda,
worth?
Frank. They're not going to give up their citizenship because they have an agenda. They really do believe.
We gave it up. We had to give it up. We were doing things where we would have got deported. We were doing things we weren't supposed to be doing.
If worse comes to worse, what they're going to do is, and I think that's always going to be their mission, they're going to tear it down from the inside. And I go back to what Reagan said. You know, America as a country is a generation away from being destroyed. You know, it always is. It has to be fought for every day. If freedom isn't free, it has costs. And so
but there's nothing like getting a good night's sleep knowing you're an American citizen.
Yeah, and you're damn right about that, sir. You're damn right. Thank you, sir. Let's go to Lori in Glastonbury real quick. Hey, Lori.
Hey there. Happy Jackie Robinson Day. I just wanted to make note.
Of course.
Today was the day that Jackie Robinson broke the color barrier in MLB. And I also wanted to apologize to the Red Sox because clearly I jinxed them.
You did.
With my comments last.
What was that score? 14-1?
I don't even want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it.
Hey, you know what I want to do real quick, Lori? Let me tell you this real quick before I get to the last but not least caller of the day. One day I'm going to tell you the story about the man who used to be I guess he was the proprietor or the kind of the general manager of the Negro League museum that used to travel all around the country on a big giant tour bus before it actually got a brick and mortar. Yeah, I interviewed him back in 2005. And he's an amazing story. I'll tell the story about it. But what he said about the Negro League and their relationship with Jackie Robinson will stun you. It is.
I believe it was tenuous. I believe that they weren't thrilled about it.
Not thrilled. Let me tell you this. It was. I'll put it this way. The way they described it was Jackie Robinson breaking the color barrier was going to destroy the Negro League, and it sure enough did.
Right.
Yeah. And
right.
I would, when I get a chance, I want to tell you that story. Has he talked to me about it because he was one of the Negro League players at the time that watched that whole thing unfold, and it's an amazing story.
Oh, I'm down. I'm down. Let me know when you want to come. Good.
You got it. Thank you, Lori. Let's go with our last but not least caller of the day. Mona is in South Windsor.
Hello.
Hello, Mona. You are the recipient of a dozen bagels a month for 6 months, courtesy of Between Rounds. All right, don't let me do the whole promo thing. What did you call about? Did you want to opine or did you just want to win?
I just wanted to win. But I listen to you, too. I love you, so that's a good thing.
Thank you.
We're both on the same page.
Thank you so much, Mona. Please tell anyone and everyone to please join the program. I will put you on hold to make sure that Roland can get all of your information, to make sure that you can get in contact with Between Rounds to do that. This is it's interesting what's going on with the immigration issue in this country. The reason why I brought this up today is because I know deep down a lot of people only care about it on the side in which they are. Sadly enough, I do know that not enough people see these individuals as people. And the people who don't see them as people are on the left. They just don't. They see them as poor. They see them as, in some cases, dumb, silly even, that they are the worker class, the peasant class. And I understand that. I know what that's like. I see it every day. When I hear people diminish people from my race as a means to say something nice and supportive. I'm just telling you, I know it all too well. This is it's going too far, but we'll get into that another day, another time. We got plenty of time to do it. As I always say, radio is free, so we thank you for paying attention. Remember to keep JC in your hearts and in your mind. Sean Patrick, we love you and we miss you. Remember, the panic is not planning, so plan your work and work your plan. Me, I'm Reese on the radio. You have a good night, pleasant tomorrow. We'll see you back here on Wednesday. Jason Caterina's got your weather, and Mark Christopher's in the BPS Traffic Center. Good night, sir.
Hey, good night, Reese. We'll see you tomorrow, and if you